information today. So, okay, I'm going to call this meeting of the Public Transit Committee to order. Can we have a roll call?
Ozog,
Here.
Colbert, here, DeCiani, Krajewski, Schwarzy,
Here.
Tornatore.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any public comment? No? Okay, thank you. Next, I move to approve the minutes of the June 7th, 2022 meeting.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and next we will move on to staff updates. We're looking at the mobility plan, existing condition report, and the mobility guide, and then a Willowbrook Corners update.
Thank you. So Joe is sharing just a brief presentation here for you. So I'll go quickly through this. I know that we're on a prep time scale. So the mobility plan, you might recall, is a cooperative endeavor between ourselves and the RTA. It is being paid for largely by the RTA Community Planning Grant, and we have a $20,000 match. The idea behind the mobility plan really was to put together an update to what used to be called the DuPage Area Transit Plan, and to broaden the scope and kind of the horizons of that transit plan, which unfortunately never really got off the ground because it was done during the recession. Next slide, Joe. So looking at this in kind of the Venn diagram view. The mobility plan is kind of a cross between, the PACE, the RTA strategic plan utilized in the DuPage County strategic plan in terms of fairness, equity, and it's a companion document to the long range transportation plan, where we talk a lot about increasing mobility of our population and providing better connections, obviously, between the various modes of transportation throughout the county. Next slide, please. So that old plan, while it was very successful in putting out some good projects that are still working today or are in progress, like the PACE Pulse routes, the upcoming one on Route 56 and 22nd Street, and the I-55 bus on shoulder, we really didn't have a very complete list of projects, and strategies to address the changing demographics of DuPage County, as well as the ways people are getting around. We're very dependent on PACE and Metra and those in that plan to really fulfill the elements of the plan. And I don't think that's fair these days. There's just so much more going on out in DuPage County that we really need to consider. So what we're looking at now is more of a multimodal microtransit, micromobility considerations and the mobility plan. Next slide, John. Thanks. So what's in front of you, I've given you today is just a executive summary of the mobility plan. It's still in progress. We're looking at getting together with our stakeholder advisory groups next week to go through the existing conditions report, get their feedback, and to really progress this to completion for you to look at in the final draft report sometime later in October. So what we're doing here is we're really exploring those issues and obstacles that stand in the way of access and system improvement. This is something that we really didn't do in the DuPage Area Transit Plan. We're also looking at really new big data, information that's available about where people live, work, and how they travel. And we're getting a lot of vehicle probe data that tells us about who's actually making the trips and where they're going and why they're going there. So we're able to figure out a lot more about how we might be able to make connections with transit or other types of mobility besides the personal vehicle. So most of the ECR is including ideas and strategies and thoughts that we're getting from our stakeholder groups and steering committees. And on those committees, we have a lot of the disabled community. We have Ray Graham, Easter Seals, a variety of other contributors, to this advisory group, really telling us a lot about how their population is served or not served in DuPage County. And includes also senior representatives, how elderly are not being really served where they live. Next slide, Joe. The mobility guide that we also have provided you here is a work in progress, and its ultimate goal is to be a kind of a one-stop shop for people who are looking for information for how to get around in DuPage County, what connections can be made, programs that are available. Mary Keating and her group have done a nice job about putting together a Ride DuPage pamphlet and what that means. This will incorporate some of that, but it will be ultimately a web document that people will be able to click around in and find information out basically through that one-stop shop. Where we think it would be very helpful is, and we had really been working with Greg Bedeloff at DuPage, is to provide information for new employers and employees in the communities throughout, and they'll be able to utilize this to help them figure out what they can do if they are transit dependent. And ultimately, this will evolve as transit programs and micromobility programs become available. So that's what we're aiming for. And next slide, Joe. The schedule really, we're hoping to have the mobility plan done this year, this calendar year, with ultimately meeting back with you folks in November and December for approval of the mobility plan. We're looking at, in September, we're looking at a mobility opportunities and strategies report that will kind of synthesize, what we've heard from our stakeholders and steering committee, but also, what RTA and CMAP are saying about their strategies that they're going to be pursuing through the mobility recovery committees that they are working on. So that's kind of our schedule for this year. And if you have any questions, obviously call me. And any questions about that, I can provide links to the document if you're interested in seeing the complete documents. They're like 135 pages. But we'll try to narrow that down to a couple of pages for you when we get together next.
Thank you, John. Any questions? Or too many questions? Thanks a lot, John. Next, moving on to Willowbrook Corners.
So in the last few weeks, staff has been working to identify potential community van routes. We talked a little bit about our two options last time we got together, the community van option, which was basically a circulator service that begins and ends in the Willowbrook Corners area. And then also what PACE considers to be a van pool program. We've actually been out to the Willowbrook Corners neighborhoods to do some travel time runs and to really begin to put some parameters on what a circulator service might look like. How can we actually set up a schedule, and what stops are really reachable within an hour of the community location. So we're beginning to really think about when we get to the contract side with a third party contractor and service deliverer, what is it we need to tell them, what do we want them to do to test for us on behalf of the community. So we've been doing that. We've also begun discussion with PACE on van pools and are now going to be reaching out to the various contractors to determine what their interest level is prior to actually putting this out to bid for service, and hopefully in September or October. Over the next 30 to 60 days, there are two events that we're going to be attending. The Avanaf community event, which is on August 11th. It's kind of a back to school event in the community, and there's also a back to school day that the district schools are putting on August 29th, and we'll be there with Community House and coordinating with them to really produce some information for the community on what we're thinking and tell them, basically what we're looking for is, that first van pool setup, who's a willing driver, who want, locations where people work together and where we can actually pull some people in to get that first pilot project together. And so we will be out there very actively engaged with the parents of the school kids and with the residents of the neighborhood. So that's what we're looking to do. And if there are any questions, if you want to participate, come down for basically the back to school day on the 29th. I think the schools would really love to see you. So
Okay,
that's it.
any other questions? Okay, thank you very much, John. Next, we're going to move on to our partner reports. Do we have?
We don't have any partner reports today just because of time constraints,
Okay.
but I did put an RTA written report out at your places for you,
Thank you.
and I just put it on file. Asked to put it on file
Okay.
rather than to read it off.
Okay.
I will say that RTA now has a mobility coordinator for DuPage County, and she's on the job and working. So it's she will be a resource for a lot of people who absolutely need to have assistance in getting around. I know they're working on mobility trainers, getting people who are disabled some help with it.
Is that a new position to have a
It is.
specific
It
person?
is.
Very good. Okay. Any other questions or comments for John? Okay, any old business? Any new business? Okay. Member Schwarzy first.
More of a question. Has Carroll Stream Chamber of Commerce reached out to you? They briefly mentioned to me about their concerns about transportation for potential employees into our industrial area. Have you heard anything from them?
I have not, but it's interesting you ask that, because a lot of the, I know through Choose DuPage and some of the and DMMC, there's been a lot of discussion about how we get various chambers involved. As a matter of fact, I've been pointing the RTA to, a lot of these through their strategies is really talking with employers and chambers, because they're the ones who really need the help getting the industrial employees in. That's been a part of really our advocacy at the regional level is really making those connections for the employees. So.
Would you have a recommendation for me to have them reach out to you or to the RTA? Or
I'd be very happy to talk to them and see how I can help them or direct them.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely willing to do it.
Okay, Member Colbert.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. I think this committee is really important with the transportation situation, especially now with high gas prices. And I wanted to request, maybe if we can somehow make this meeting longer than 15 minutes. I think it deserves more time, and I would like to spend more time on it. Is there another? Can we work on another time slot where we have more time?
John, let's talk about that. I certainly agree with you about it's sort of shoehorned in at the moment. So
Yeah,
we can,
definitely.
Yes,
I'm in
definitely.
transportation over there, and
yeah,
I'm supposed to be in development over there, but Sam's here.
yeah. So
There's
we're-
5 of us here on the development committee, so we're not going anywhere.
And
Yeah,
I
I'd
think
love
it's-
to.
We're all
To
here.
talk more about the mobility plan, and there was a lot more to say, but absolutely, and
yes, definitely.
Chair, I don't know what the chairman's position will be ultimately on the committee for next year, but we
Yeah,
can certainly
but
do
we can
something temporarily.
certainly see what we could do and try to figure out a better time. I'm sorry.
Chris Rose has his hand up. I'm not.
Oh,
okay.
I'm sorry. Hello, Chris.
Chris, hi, Chris.
Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to, Member Schwarzy, Carroll Stream Chamber of Commerce president has recently reached out to PACE, and we are working with them. In fact, we have an event planned for October to come out and speak to the various industrial businesses to talk about van pool and other options, transit options. So
Oh,
Thank you very much for that
Great.
information.
okay. Thank you very much, Chris. Any other comments or discussion? No new business, no more old business. Hearing none, I will adjourn this meeting. All in favor?
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.